Hi there, I'm Jim Rohn, your guide on the journey back to emotional peace and mutual love. And today, I'm going to say something that might be hard to hear, but it's exactly what you need. The avoidant in your life may not be worth it. I don't say this lightly. I know how much you've tried. You've studied attachment theory, softened your tone, dimmed your light, made yourself less, so they wouldn't feel overwhelmed. You've walked on eggshells, waited with patience, hoped in silence. You've given your heart to someone who treats your love like an inconvenience. And here's the heartbreaking truth: you've done everything right, and it's still not enough. So the real question isn't, what more can I do? It's, why am I still doing this to myself? This video isn't just a wake-up call. It's an invitation to come home to yourself, to your truth, to your self-respect. If you're exhausted from giving your all and getting breadcrumbs in return, if you've been hoping they'd change while you slowly disappeared, then this message is for you. Stay with me till the end. And if something in this video speaks to your heart, hit that subscribe button, because you deserve guidance, clarity, and a love that gives back what you pour in. You've done everything thoughtfully, lovingly, and wholeheartedly. Yet sometimes those genuine efforts have unintentionally pulled you deeper into a cycle of losing yourself. Let's look at what you've done. First, you sought to understand their trauma, their childhood wounds, and attachment style. You read books, watched videos, convinced yourself, if I truly understand, I can love them right. That shows depth and respect, but it also marked the beginning of you prioritizing their healing over caring for yourself. You bent over backward to adjust every detail, speaking softly, waiting for them to be ready, learning to communicate in ways that wouldn't trigger them. You studied timing, tone, and language not to uplift yourself, but to avoid overwhelming them. That's growth in love, but only in one direction. You're losing yourself by giving too much. You accommodated their silence, their withdrawals, and their emotional disappearances. You sacrificed your plans, your rest, your space just to be available when they finally reached out. You even accepted late-night calls without question, thinking, they need me. But hey, you need understanding and allowance too. You worked so hard to be the ideal partner, less demanding, less emotional, more muted. You thought that by making yourself smaller, safer, they'd open up. You stifled emotions so they wouldn't feel pressured. You're betting that shrinking yourself will bring them closer. But in doing so, you've stripped away who you are to make room for their fear. Know this: when you silence your pain to appease them, you're forgetting yourself. When you suppress your needs so they don't feel too much, you're loving them on their terms, not yours. When you dim your light to avoid their discomfort, your presence becomes fabricated, not authentic. You've gone too far in the hopes that one day they'll reciprocate a love that never comes. But today, and you deserve something consistent, full-bodied. The avoidant isn't worth infinite waiting. Those constant sacrifices, if unseen and unvalued, shouldn't make you forget your worth. You don't need to sacrifice yourself to love again. You don't need to change who you are to become safe. And you absolutely have the right to stop waiting and begin loving yourself right now. When you've poured out your heart, understood them deeply, and adjusted everything to keep them safe, what do you end up with? Not just silence, but an ongoing exhaustion you can't shake off. You lose sleep because your mind is constantly racing. Why didn't they text today? Did I say something wrong? The nights become an arena, hope battling anxiety, stealing peace instead of rest. Then any small message, a casual, "Hey, how are you?" feels like a treasured gift. A simple emoji becomes a rainbow on a stormy day, enough to soothe your soul and make you feel chosen again. But these emotional crumbs aren't genuine connection. They're just snippets meant to keep you hanging on. And because you're so depleted, you tell yourself, just a little more, and they will change. You look for longer texts, warmer words, initiative, even a tiny shift, believing a miracle is just around the corner. That if you're patient, understanding, and gentle enough, one day they'll meet you where you're longing to be. Then those insidious thoughts creep in. Am I too emotional? Am I asking too much? Maybe I love too hard. Slowly, you start to see yourself as too sensitive, too demanding. You begin to redefine love as enduring silence and waiting for someone who never fully shows up. You don't just lose sleeps, you lose faith in your own feelings. You believe that if you stay quiet or accept tiny crumbs, you're the greater person. You feel weak for wanting more. It's as though you deserve to be hurt for caring too deeply. But here's the harsh truth. Those crumbs aren't rewards. They're a cycle keeping you attached to a relationship that doesn't honor your worth. Tired, yearning, drained. You didn't just get hurt, you slowly faded from yourself. What's cruel is you still don't recognize that you deserve the whole kekia love that's full, not earned piece by piece. A relationship where you never have to question whether your feelings are too much. The moment you realize you're not overly sensitive or harsh, you've just been living in a space that forced you to dim your light to fit. You're not weak, you just love deeply. You're not demanding, you only ask to be loved in return at the level you give. When you've run out of strength after sleepless nights, endless emotional sacrifices, and waiting for scraps, you must face a hard fact. You can't save them. Your feelings, empathy, or patience aren't enough to topple their avoidant walls. You can't love more and expect them to change by tomorrow. You can't be infinitely patient and force them to show up consistently. And no matter how much you thoroughly understand their fear of intimacy, you can't make their heart open if they choose to stay emotionally unavailable. The brutal truth is, their childhood trauma, deep wounds, or past pain don't justify your emotional starvation. Your compassion must have limits, otherwise it erodes your soul and dims your value. You might say, they were deeply hurt, they just need time. But do you remember you also have needs? Remember how you suffered waiting endlessly, how your hopes strained you. Love shouldn't come with the constant warning, keep waiting. Loving doesn't mean erasing yourself while someone heals. Understand this. Empathy is kindness, not a license to be starved. You can share their pain, understand their fear, but you don't have to vanish into it. Empathy doesn't obligate you to stay when you're not seen or reciprocated. Avoidance may struggle to feel secure. They may retreat when things get intimate, but that's not a green light for your erasure. Rather than waiting for a miracle, choose to love yourself. You cannot pour into them fully if you haven't filled yourself first. It's time to wake up. You deserve complete love. A connection where both people show up, not where one disappears and the other clings on. You don't have to endure emotional ambiguity just to be the patient one. You've been trapped in endless penance, waiting, compromising, hoping, self-sacrificing. Today, you get to redraw the boundary. You don't need to stockpile patience, wait longer, or suffer more just to give this relationship a chance. You have the right to say, I refuse to live in emotional limbo anymore. You have the right to say, I deserve to be seen, connected with, and met emotionally. You have the right to end a relationship that gives you no choice. Because love isn't a lesson forcing you to sacrifice in vain. Patience doesn't transform boundaries into tolerance. Empathy doesn't justify accepting emotional injustice. Be kind to yourself. Value your heart. Know that relationships aren't rescue missions, they're mutual partnerships. If only one person carries the weight, it's not love, it's a dependency. When you've understood them, been patient, and lived in constant hope, you'll reach a dangerous turning point. Your self-worth is being stolen, bit by bit. You begin to depend on their responses to feel valuable. You start believing you're only worthy when they respond a compliment, a message, a moment of intimacy, and in those moments, you say, I am still lovable. But when they go silent or distant, you feel not good enough. You feel like your right to exist has vanished, as if only their return grants you permission to feel valued. Then you begin to train yourself. I'll endure a little more. Just once more, maybe they'll see. You feel like you're under an invisible test. If you're gentle enough, patient enough, persistent enough, one day they'll finally reciprocate or respond fully to your love. You get stuck in a draining cycle. You give love, collect emotional crumbs, and then wait again. Each day becomes a scavenger hunt for scraps that define your worth. A quick reply, a subtle gesture, a short text. You've turned your life into a game. When you receive, you feel alive. When you don't, you feel hollow. Unfortunately, in that process, you forget that you can give yourself value. You forget that your inner flame doesn't need the outside world to burn. Because you've been led to believe if someone doesn't explicitly compliment you, you're undeserving. If someone doesn't message daily, you're unworthy of care. If you don't get a full embrace, you're not worthy of real affection. You've allowed yourself to collect small breadcrumbs in exchange for self-worth. When, In reality, you're entitled to the full kekia, wholehearted relationship where no one needs to permit your emotional presence. You've been taught that love means enduring more, but you absolutely have the right to reject that. You have the right to realize, I deserve to be loved for who I am, not because someone concedes to my emotional existence. You have the right to deep connection without having to erase yourself. And when you truly feel that way, you won't waste time arguing with your own loneliness. Because once you believe you're enough, you won't need someone else to tell you so. This is no longer about trying a little harder. It's not about whether you can be more patient or understanding. This is the moment where you must face a hard but liberating truth. The avoidant isn't worth it. You've done everything. You've empathized, adjusted, waited in silence, and clung to hope even when the signs were fading. But if even now, they still won't take initiative, won't show up for the relationship, won't meet your emotional presence with theirs, then that's not your failure. That's their choice. They chose safety over connection. They chose distance over vulnerability. They chose walls instead of walking toward you. And you, no matter how deeply you love, cannot keep living in a one-way relationship where you're the only one carrying the emotional load, the only one holding the light while they hide in the dark. If you stay, you're silently agreeing that your feelings don't need to be returned. You're teaching yourself that a little warmth is enough, even though you long for full, healthy love. Walking away isn't giving up on love. It's giving up on self-sacrifice that's not mutual. It's the action of someone who finally sees their own worth and dares to protect it. No one deserves to be emotionally starved waiting for signs, decoding silences, settling for half love. No one deserves to exist in a relationship where they have to convince themselves over and over. Maybe one day they'll change. That day won't come unless they choose it, and you can't wait forever for something that was never promised. Remember, the greatest act of love isn't always staying, it's knowing when to leave. Your life has not ended because of one person who couldn't or wouldn't love you fully. If you're reading this, know that a new chapter is waiting for you, one where love is whole, unconditional, and not made of scraps. You deserve a full love, not just crumbs of affection that barely keep you standing. Real love should never make you question, am I enough? Am I giving too much? You shouldn't have to question yourself when you are giving your all. True love blooms like a flower with the seasons not, as proof that you're worthy of being loved. Remember, your heart and energy have limits. Every moment, every tear, every ounce you give must be reciprocated. Invest your love where both people work to cultivate it, not where one gives while the other passively receives. Let your love be a gift to the right person, the one who will value it daily. Walking away doesn't mean you've stopped loving. It means you love yourself enough not to accept a half-lit connection. You love yourself enough to know you're not a backup, not a sacrifice, not someone who exists just to spark someone else's growth. To love yourself is to recognize your worth and demand to be seen as a priority, not a burden. You deserve someone who can love fully, someone who won't shrink from intimacy, who won't pull away when things get deeper, truly tries, someone who initiates, plans, checks in, understands most of the time it's their turn to show up, is sincere, gentle, and committed, not a fleeting breeze, but a patient partner willing to build a shared story. That life won't happen if you stay in emotional limbo. A new life begins when you let go of what hurts you and open your arms to what brings you back to life. Believe this, yesterday's silence isn't worth giving up tomorrow's joy. Your journey may start by stepping away from a relationship that demanded you fight to exist. It may start by saying no to those who make you doubt your worth so you can finally say yes to those who let you live fully. Take the next steps, cultivate your presence, reconnect with old friends, pursue passions, explore the world. Embrace deeper meaning, create, release, express your unspoken truths. Hold fast to the values you don't need validation for. Honesty with yourself, the tenderness you deserve, the relief in being authentically you. One day soon, you'll look back and smile for having the courage to let go, for choosing yourself, for believing in a future where love doesn't wear you thin, it nourishes your soul. In the end, what you need to let go of isn't love, it's the illusion that love, given alone, in silence and suffering, can be enough to change someone. You've gone further than most dare to go. You've tried, waited, loved with everything you had. But now, It's time to come back to yourself, not because you're tired, but because you finally know. Real love is mutual, not sacrificial. The avoidant isn't worth you silencing your needs. They aren't worth waiting endlessly for scraps of affection. Their trauma doesn't make them bad, but it doesn't make you their healer. You are not their therapist. You're someone deserving of full, consistent love and of being chosen every day. Remember this: true love doesn't make you shrink. It doesn't make you feel like you're too much. It doesn't make you question your worth. The right love will feel like peace in your own skin, like you can finally stop editing yourself to be lovable. You don't need to wait for them to wake up. You don't need to be more patient. You need one thing now: the courage to choose yourself. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally love yourself more.